So of course, this is a common to that we as very privileged people are not raised in a world where we can recognize evil that well. So when it comes sneaking into our lives, we are lost.
And let's talk about a bit about the story. I think the audience would like to know more about the antagonists, so the Dutch people. What exactly do they want to achieve with the multiple kidnappings? Or in other words, how would you describe the couple's personality in this movie?
Well, one of the big discussions we had with people reading the scripts and so on was the question, why are they doing this? And in the script, every time we tried to answer that in a very concrete way, well, they are vampires or they want their money or it just fell apart. It was not interesting. And in the end, I discovered that the interesting thing is not why they are doing it, but it's our reaction to it. It's that, you know, as he says in the end, why are you doing this? Because you let me. The interesting thing is, why didn't they stop? Why didn't they, you know, listen to their gut feeling? Why did they just keep on accepting this? This is a part of the theme. So I was actually, you know, talking with the Dutch actors that they were more an allegory, a symbol of evilness in the world. And the story we had to follow was, why do we ordinary, very well-raised, civilized, privileged people don't do anything against that? Why are we allowing it, accepting it? Do we have the tools to even recognize evilness in a pure form? And it was not that they were playing, you know, you cannot play a symbol, but I think the actors liked that they don't have to, you know, explain why they did it. So like in a film like Funny Games, there is also this line, and maybe I was a little bit inspired by this, that there's in the scene where they talk about why they're doing it, and they say, because it's fun. So they're doing it for amusement. And here we answered it, well, because you allow me. So it was really a way of not trying to explain, but trying to, you know, accept it anyway as a theme. And some people still have problems with that, but every time we answered it, it became more like an American B horror film, and I hate that films always have to explain themselves. There are many great horror films, but in the last 20 minutes, they have to explain everything about cults and witches, and I kind of, you know, I get it. So it was way of being, you know, a little bit, you know, people have to think themselves after leaving the cinema. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a very, very good decision. I must confess that the film lost me a little when the girl's tongue was cut off and the parents froze and did not react after a small fight. Before, I could still understand the freezing in the extreme situation, but at that moment, a red line had been crossed where I think all the parents had probably fought with their lives for the welfare of the child. So why the decision as we see it now in the film?
Yeah, you know, I discussed this with a lot of people as well, and it's not like I don't see they don't fight, but I think there is this, you know, there's a way we want to be. We want to fight, we want to do everything for our families, and when we watch American films, we are taught that we fight against it. But I'm not so sure that this will be the outcome in real life. To begin with, I was looking at myself. How do I react in situations where I'm scared? And I freeze. I totally freeze. I get numb. And if I'm not doing that, I escape. I never fight back. And we were talking a lot about this, my brother and I, that we have to be honest to this feeling because they don't know how to react. The lead, Björn, he has never been in a fight. He has never really experienced something really evil in his life. So you cannot even accept that this is actually happening. It's like, for him, it's like, this is not reality. Or maybe he thinks, if I just do what they tell me, they will let me go. You clinch to that hope. We were talking a little bit about in the Second World War when the Jews were digging their own graves because they thought, if I just dig the grave, well, they will let me go. But then they were shot, of course. So there's a way of still trying to clinch to that hope in other people. So of course, this is a common to that we as very privileged people are not raised in a world where we can recognize evil that well. So when it comes sneaking into our lives, we are lost. So I think it was actually to be honest to that point, but a lot of people have been also very provoked by that. But people are different in fear, and this is about a couple who are lost when they are afraid, when they are lost when they are in crises. And that's a controversial point, but I think it's pretty realistic for a great bunch of us.
And the ending of the film seems for me to want to make a religious reference. So I'm not very religious. So maybe you can explain me this in more detail.
Yeah, in a way, when you write a movie, it's about, you find out what kind of movie is this, what is the tone, what is the genre. And in the beginning, we knew that there was going to be an execution. And in the beginning, we had guns and knives, and it became more like a crime story. And then you would say, okay, where's the police and why are they doing this? But when we in the end find out that this is a more mythology story, it's a Greek drama, it's an opera, we wanted to elevate it. Then a stoning seemed right, because of course it has references to religion and to opera, Greek drama, and then we did not ask these questions. So for me, it was a way of lifting it a little bit out of reality and making it into more like a fable, an adventure. And of course, I didn't think so much about the symbol of it, like in a religious sense. But of course, we thought about this as two people who in the beginning of the film are so civilized and have perfect clothing, perfect food, living a perfect life in a very safe tower. In the end, they are just naked. They're just nature. There has no civilizations anymore. And in a way, we also thought about Adam and Eve, or that these characters were maybe longing a little bit for feeling something and not just, being civilized. So this more like Garden of Eden, or references to hell. It was something that worked very well when we were writing the film, to lift it out of the ordinary. Yeah.
And I read a review that said, watch this if you want to ruin the rest of your day. What appeals to you about making a film that is meant to shock and disturb its audience? And would you say goal achieved?
Well, the goal was definitely achieved. And I don't know if that was good or bad. The good thing about it is that from the beginning, we had a vision. We wanted to try to make the most uncomfortable film in Danish film history. And we were afraid if we could succeed with that. And the result was that, everybody in Denmark has heard about the film. Not everybody's seen it because they're afraid to, but everyone was talking about it. So in a way, it was kind of sad that we succeeded so well that they didn't see it. But I guess it's better than making a scary film that is not scary. And I have to say that was our vision with this film. I don't believe that every film has to be disturbing or brutal or ruin your day, but it was a vision with this film. And when that is said, I think there are so many films that are pleasing, that are neat and nice and entertaining. And, I like the idea of, especially when you spend 4 or 5 years on a film, if you're lucky, that the film kind of stays with you in a physical way, that you kind of leave the cinema afterwards and you keep discussing it, or you feel repulsed, or you think about it the next day. And, the films I like, also if they're not horror films, it's the films that I keep thinking about. And it's like, I met this film in real life as a person. And so we wanted to create that physical tension in people also after watching it. And there are not many disturbing films in modern cinema, and I think there should be more of them, because that's also a part of life. It's also, you get in contact with your fears and all that. That's also, I think, intriguing for an audience.
I like such psychological movies much more than the other horror movies we see mostly from the US. You have some social criticism in this movie. So how important was this, like the exaggerated portrayal of the etiquette of politeness to you in this film?
Well, it was actually the main theme, and it's sometimes funny because when you make films, you discover the main theme in the end of the editing process. There were also themes about, relationships and getting back together again and couples retreatment. But in the end, we thought that what the situations are really about is this not speaking up, this not knowing yourself, not be true to your nature, to be, speak up about how you really feel, that our lives are so dictated about social behavior and norms, and we are raised from kids to discover what is right and wrong, and we have to sit at the table and we have to say sorry and all that. It's such a big part of being a human being, and it's also a good thing because you cannot go through life with being rude, and there's a matter of trust in it. When I meet foreigners, I kind of trust that they want me the good, and most of people do, but if they don't, are you then lost? So I thought that there was something very, very modern and controversial about this that is extremely normal. So it's not a film telling you don't do social behavior. It just do what you think. It's not about that, but it's maybe a warning, like try to listen to how you really feel. And if you're not comfortable, why not just go away or tell people that you're not so comfortable here? I mean, you maybe you could save not your life, but just some time. And it's a fun idea. I mean, I know so many people who were sitting there at couples dinners just have to go there, or bigger things, saying yes to holidays with people they were not so great with because they had to, and it's family. And so, there's a lot of things we have to do in life, and it's just a funny dilemma how to react in that situation.
I have two last questions for you. So, was that your strangest holiday experience, or can we expect more traumatic films like that?
Well, I would love to work in this genre again, but I also like the idea of directors have to move to unknown places all the time, to new on zones where they are not so comfortable. But I think in general, I have a tendency to work with, atmospheres that are not so comfortable, with awkwardness, something where you want to look away, but it's the uncomfortableness between people, not so much with aliens or ghosts and metaphysic layers. So the next project is more light. It's more like a comedy genre than a thriller horror. But again, there will be scenes that are not pleasant to watch, and a little bit controversy and all that. But you learn something from your previous things, and you try to do something else. And but I thought it was so fun to write a horror film. I mean, in the script there were so many rules with horror that we really could use, that I wouldn't have allowed myself in a drama. So I like the idea of genre, that there are certain conventions that will kind of guide you to make a perfect film. Not a perfect film, but an interesting film, at least. Yeah.
It sounds really great. And is there anything from the working on set that you always will always remember?
Corona, in this case, because we were stopped so many times, and it took a year to shoot it, and we were actually having 4 or 5 pauses in between. So it was a tough film to make. But when we were actually on set doing the recordings, we enjoyed it very much. And what I learned from this is actually, if you're prepared well, if you have a good script, if you cast it right, if you have great people around you, it's not so difficult. I mean, it is difficult to make a film, but it's also filled with joy. And being on a shoot is something I enjoy the most. I always longing for that. It's such a social thing, and that you're actually doing things together, and that you kind of inspire other people in other departments to do their best. So sometimes you just really have to enjoy it, and not being so afraid and stressed out as most directors are.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and all the answers. It was very great. And yeah, I wish you only the best for you and the cinema release.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.